Okay, let me just get rid of this. So now what we're going to do is we are going to create our circle. We're going to be repeating this 12 times. Now, instead of making 11 copies of this, we're going to work on making one quadrant, which would be 3 of these. And then we're going to merge them together and make 1, 2, 3 more copies of it. So, first things first, we're going to make a copy of this. So you can right-click on your layer, and then you can go to Duplicate Layer. That's one way to do it. I'm going to cancel it. There's also a way that you can add a layer or copy a layer, is to drag this layer on top of the New Layer button. So you can see you made a copy there. But I'm going to show you another way. If you're on the Move tool, your cursor becomes this little black arrow. If you hold down the Alt button, Alt Option button, you see now you have 2 arrows. And if you drag your image out, it made a copy real quick. So that's a nice way to make one copy. So what we're going to do is that this line here, it needs to fit right along here. So there is going to be rotation involved. But before we do, we also want this to be a flipped image, a mirror image of this. So what we're going to do with this image is we're going to move it and we're going to shift it. So it's actually changing the size. It's actually changing the width, the percentage. We're going to move it over to along this axis all the way like this. So as you were moving this, you might have noticed up on top these numbers changed. When I went over across the y-axis with this image, like in other words started to flip it, you notice that this width changed and also the x coordinate changed. So what I'm going to do is I'm going to come over here and you can see it's now a negative number. If I change the width to minus 100%, you can see now it's a flipped image. Okay? So now I'm going to rotate it. So as I start this rotation, we're going to figure out a little math. If we move this, let's get this back to the way it was. What we're going to have to figure out is how many degrees do we rotate from here to here. So how many degrees is this? Well, if a straight line is 180, and we know that this wedge is 30 degrees and this wedge is 30 degrees, to figure out what this white angle is, you would take 180 and you subtract this amount and this amount, which is 30 and 30, which is 60. So you're left with 180 degrees. So I know that the number that I'm looking for is 120 degrees. So you can actually set up that number right here, this angle. So if I hit 120, that is perfectly 120 degree rotation, and it should fit like a glove. Now if it doesn't fit, it could be that at some point in the stage you ended up changing the size of your wedge. Maybe you started rotating it and it was a little off, but this one looks good. You can also use the arrows to nudge it, and so what I'm doing is I'm moving it, but I'm just shifting it by these like little increments. So once it looks like it's in place, you're going to commit to it. A way you can check to make sure that it's perfectly situated is that this should look right here, this seam should be not even noticeable. If you find that it's off like this, it's going to mess up the whole work. So you just want to make sure that this sits tight, like in other words that arc just keeps going. Similarly, this middle part should look good too. Okay, and it does. So now we're going to make another copy, but we're going to make a copy of the original. So we flipped this second one. So we're going to make a third one, but we do not need to flip it because it's this orientation, then it's a flipped orientation, then it's back to the original. But we will need to rotate it. So we know that we need to rotate this from this angle up to a vertical. So if the right angle is 90 degrees, we know we need to rotate this an additional 60. So you take the 30 degrees away. So as you start rotating it, you can see that the angle kind of appears next to your cursor. And the magic number we need now is 60, but it's actually rotating counterclockwise. So we're going to put a negative there, negative 60. And that fits into place just like that. And again, you can use the nudge tool, get that fitting nice and snug, and commit to it. Just going to slide it over to get rid of that seam, and that looks pretty good. So it's not to say you have to do this 9 more times. What you can do is you can take these 3 layers and merge them together. So holding down the Shift button, it allows me to select more than one layer. Then I'm going to right click, merge layers, and now I have a copy. So I'm going to make a copy of this, and I'm going to flip it. Same way, I'll go like this, and I know that this is negative 100%. Move into place here. And I could do this 2 more times, or if I wanted to, I can combine these 2 layers together. I'll combine these 2 together. Layers. Make a copy. And I'm going to flip this 100 degrees. Negative 100. Not 100 degrees, 100%. Sorry about that. And that's it. So that looks pretty good. So a couple things you want to check just for the technical aspects of it. This should look nice and neat. Should look nice and clean. If they look like they're overlapping each other, we might need to go back and reconstruct it. And then also, as I'm dragging up here, you want to make sure that these seams look pretty good. If there's a tiny bit of a space, you're not even going to see it at the end. And that is a done deal, my people. Looks pretty fun, right? So, very visually appealing. Oh, and then when you finish this, you're going to merge these guys together. So you have that circle. We're going to be getting rid of this background. We're actually going to be putting this into a different background, but that'll be another video, another day.